All right, hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Marketing Your Science Live. Today I want to talk about productivity in your research career and a specific aspect of this, which is being selective about what it is that you choose to do and not do. You know, there's always going to be way more to do to get done than it is possible for any of us mere humans to actually accomplish in a day, in a week, in a year. You know, my list when I was a faculty member, researcher, was always mega long. And it seemed like for everything I crossed off the list, there would be like 5 more things added to the list. It's very similar actually to being an entrepreneur because I've been in both roles, worn both hats. Now I do more of the entrepreneurial business owner thing. I before did the researcher thing. And it's very similar that as the leader of an organization, as the leader of whether it's a research lab or a business or whatever, you know, the ultimate responsibility falls on you to actually get all of that stuff done. And so you can delegate it or do it yourself, but regardless, the list can be quite big. And you may have tried, you know, one of the things that's out there in sort of the productivity space is this idea of Pareto's principle, which is a nice idea, but it has a problem. So the idea is that we try to pick the 20% of things that make 80% of the difference in what we do. So you might say, well, an example of this is if we're leading a research lab, one of the key things that we must do as the research lab leader that we really can't delegate to anybody else is bringing in research grant funding. So that is one of the things that if we spend our time focused on that, then that can help bring in the money that then we can go out and hire a team and bring in others to help us accomplish a lot of the other things on the list. So that could fall under that Pareto's principle. And so that's awesome, but for a lot of people, it doesn't work. And I'll explain why in just a second, but I want to mention if you are somebody who is interested in research grants and you want more in-depth training for free on getting research grants, 3 myths busted related to research grants, you can go to grantwebinar.com, register, put your name in there, and get access, instant on-demand access. Pretty cool stuff. So anyway, continuing on this, I actually made a list of sort of 3 strategies. And the 3 strategies are, number 1, that a lot of people do when the list is too long is working harder. So I've gone through that phase in my life. It's the phase of, you know, this is not talking yet about Pareto's principle. This is the working, just a response a lot of us have. It's like, oh, I have all of this stuff to do. I've got to work evenings. I've got to work weekends. I've got to forego family activities, hobbies, other interests. I got to give up all that stuff so that I can get through my list. So that works. I've seen that work in 2 cases. Number 1, it can work for some people in the short term. And basically, it's, the younger you are, the easy it is to do this over the short term. But the problem for most of us is that once you do this for too long, you accumulate the stress, the lack of sleep, the lack of social contact, and all of those things occur that really reduce the ability to sustain that kind of productivity because you're doing too much, you're taking too much on. So in that case, it's often not sustainable. Now, there are some people who seem to be able to keep going with this longer term, and those are people who are truly willing to sacrifice all the other areas of their lives for that kind of productivity. And some people do that, they can do that. I think Elon Musk of Tesla is an example of somebody like that, but he's pretty rare. I don't see many people who can really sustain that level of productivity and be sort of superhuman in terms of working all the time and not have it massively affect their health. And who knows, he's still younger than I am, and so with Elon Musk, there could be some longer term ramifications. There certainly were with my father. My father died at a relatively young age from cancer, and I don't think it's a coincidence that he was trying to adopt and sustain that kind of mode of working all of the time. It was just very unhealthy. So it's possible to do that. But I see so many of my clients and friends suffer health consequences, and I have tried that mode in the past. I tried it for years and suffered health consequences from that. So I don't think it's sustainable. So a second model, besides just trying to push yourself and work harder, is just taking care of what you can. So basically having a big mega list and going down through the list. So you do what you can from the list, and then you collapse in a heap on the bed and then start over again the next day. And there's often not a lot of prioritization. It's just sort of like you try to do as much as you can. Then there is this third way, which is really being a hard ass about your prioritization. True prioritization about what matters. So before I dive into that, just another reminder, if you want deeper for free grant writing training, go to grantwebinar.com and get some awesome training there. Learn some deeper skills of grants that a lot of people are missing, and it will help you. So anyway, diving into this number 3 thing, it's that true prioritization. It's really deciding what is important for you in your role to be doing, what you can uniquely do and have high leverage when you do it and do it well. And then really prioritizing that and doing that and letting everything else or much of the rest fall by the wayside. I have something called the Uber Productivity Framework, which I'll share in a later video. But in that framework, there are some different modes that we're in. And there are some tasks that are more focus-oriented, like writing a proposal. And there are some tasks that are more maintenance-oriented, like, let's say, filling out paperwork or fun stuff like that. And we want to have more of the focus stuff, the stuff that we need to focus on our plate, and less of the maintenance stuff. You're never going to get rid of all of the maintenance stuff. But even in both of those categories, things are going to have to be left behind if you're going to really focus. And the struggle I see most people have with this is they lack a true sense of, let's say, there's clarity about what is truly the most important, especially in the moment, here and now, today, to be working on. And they lack that deeper sense of, here is how I want to live my life. And here's what I'm willing to sacrifice for that, and here's what I'm not willing to sacrifice for that. And it's taken me a long time to find that sense for myself of what I'm willing to sacrifice and how I truly want to live my life. These days, I'm much better than I used to be at saying, you know what, I'm tired. It's time to turn off all of this stuff and just go relax and chill out. I used to be horrible at that. So we need to find that true sense of self and be really clear about what it is that we want from our lives and careers. We also need to understand that sometimes when we work too much, when we work too long, then it actually slows down our progress on those things that are most important, on things like grant proposals. So when people are rested, they're way more likely to come into a task like writing a grant proposal with clarity and with focus and be able to do that quickly and efficiently. But if you're not rested, it's really difficult to be efficient and focused. And so something that could take you when you're rested, let's say half an hour to write, might take you a couple hours when you're not rested, because you might write something that's not nearly as clear and as good and then have to rewrite it. So it can be kind of frustrating in that way. So what we want to do is make sure that we have that balance, that we really focus on those core things that 20% that makes 80% of the difference, and really have clarity about what that is and be able to bring that clarity into our days and into our moments. Another hint I'll give you about doing that I teach in Uber Productivity is the idea of clarity time. Most of us need time taken out of our busy schedules every day. It could be half an hour, minimum of half an hour, maybe more, where we actually sit down without notifications, without phones, without all the emails buzzing or whatever, with just pen and paper, or I geek out and I use an iPad, but I turn off notifications. So with something like that, and really clarifying what it is that's important, what it is that is truly the priority, with tuning back into those priorities, those personal priorities we have, before we try to start launching into our to-do lists. Because when we just sit down and launch into a to-do list, or worse, we don't even have a list, we're just doing randomly whatever shows up reactively, then we're very likely to just continue to struggle. You know, a lot of clients really struggle to find the time. I mean, they say that grant writing is a priority, but then actually finding the time to really do as much of it as they need to do to get better and write an awesome kick-ass grant proposal, it's difficult. People don't actually make the time, don't make that prioritization. And again, I think it's that lacking clarity, that lacking the ability to really tune in to what is truly important to you and how do you want to live your life. You know, so many people think, well, the only way you can succeed in science is to work all the time and be one of those people who's like there on weekends and, you know, cracking the whip on their teams and stuff. And I'm here to call bullshit on that. It is just not the case that you have to be that kind of person who works all the time to be successful. Sure, might you sacrifice, you know, if you take it a little bit more easy, might you sacrifice an extra paper every couple of years or something? Yeah, maybe. But will you sacrifice doing the big things and making a big difference and enjoying your career? No, you won't. I know people who take it easy and have much more funding than most of their colleagues. And I've seen this happen time and time again with both senior people and junior people, that there's this rare few who can actually, who figures out this equation of how to focus on the priority things, get those done, and then that creates so much space and time for them because they have the money and have the resources to hire people to help take care of the rest. It's, you know, so much more sustainable and awesome to operate that way. And it is possible, but it requires that real clarity. And it requires a fortitude, a strength of will, that you're not willing to take things onto your plate that truly aren't relevant. So, if you want more help with your grants, go to grantwebinar.com for free help. Sign up for the free training there. And that's awesome. And meanwhile, in terms of your research career, I really hope you'll take time out. Take time for clarity, for clarifying what is truly important to you, and making sure that that gets into your daily agenda every day. All right, well, that is the episode, a wrap for today. If you have questions, if you have other things you would like me to address in future episodes, please leave a comment. And it's always awesome to have like thumbs ups and likes and stuff like that as well. So if you're willing to be generous with your clicking, you could do that too, and that would be cool. So, or even sharing with a colleague who you think might benefit from hearing this kind of thing. So anyway, this is Dr. Morgan. Until next time, have an awesome day or evening wherever you are. See you later.